I have a sister who's 5 years older than me. Turns out she's going to become my brother who's 5 years older than me. Didn't see that coming. Not that there's anything wrong with it, not a thing. I just never had a clue, an inkling. Like she knew every team in the NFL and all the players by name and never missed a Super Bowl. That might have tipped us off something. And she wasn't particularly athletic. Not that all women who know all that and who are athletic really want to be men. She's just been the most feminine girl I've ever known. Always in high heels, always made up, lots of fashion magazines lying around, not much into slacks, always in a dress or a skirt. Maybe they were reminders to her, telling her, you're a woman, you're a woman, you're a woman. All I can figure is she got tired of the voices in her head, some of them yelling, you're a woman, you're a woman, you're a woman. And the others yelling, no, you're not, no, you're not, no, you're not. Me, I always knew I was a woman. No matter what I wear or how long my hair is or isn't, even if I got a crew cut, I'd still know I was a woman. I can't think of myself any other way. And that must mean something if that's the only way I can think of myself. I don't have any voices in my head having any arguments, except for maybe when I'm shopping for something and part of me says, you can't afford that. And the other part of me says, yes, you can too. Or maybe don't eat that, you're trying to lose 10 pounds before summer, something like that. Those are the voices I have in my head, but I've never heard a voice say, you're really a man. My mother thinks it's something my father must have said to her years ago, like maybe even when she was just born, and he was so disappointed she was a girl. And somehow, don't ask me how, so don't ask me, telepathy, something, he let her know I wanted a boy. Except he'd had to have felt that way when number 2 came along, me, as a girl. And after that, they just stopped trying. They still had sex, just not with any of the hopes and dreams and goals attached to it. But I don't think that's the case, though, about him being disappointed in us. At least he never behaved as if he was disappointed and gave us nicknames like Spike and Bud. But maybe like her dressing so girly, he's been compensating ever since, and underneath the outward behavior, he's been thinking all along, if only one of them had been a boy. But I don't think that's the case. I think that you can only behave like that for so long before the cracks start to appear and the truth comes out. Like with her. One day it all just crumbled, and instead of trying to pick up the pieces and put them back together in the right order, she just stared at what was standing there amidst the rubble and said, well, that's not so bad. And I'm so tired of pretending. Something like that. Yeah. So now she's not. And it's not like my father leapt with joy at her news and said, oh, thank God this living hell of disappointment is finally over. Let's go get ourselves season tickets to all the teams and all the leagues. We have so much time to make up for. No, actually he seemed a little bit grief-stricken. And he said to me, you don't have something to tell us, do you? Like he was saying goodbye to someone who was going away. And it is a little bit like that. Almost like having someone die, but then having them reincarnated right away in a different body. Already I can see little changes. She's still mostly Beverly, but I can start to see Brad showing through, kind of like how they do in the movies, where they go from one scene to the next it's kind of like we're at that point with her now where she's fading out from one image into the next one. I haven't asked too many questions about the down there, you know, how they'll do that. I guess I should ask so he'll know that I care about what's going on and I'm interested. I could always Google it to find out. Everything's on Google, so I'm sure something like this is too. But I don't know what sentence to use to ask that question, what words. And it makes me sad because we used to talk about everything. When we were little, we shared a room until we moved to the bigger house, and there we had our own rooms. Even there, hers was frillier. No mistake whose room that was. Canopy bed with a dust ruffle and lace curtains on the windows that were so pretty, really, you could almost wear them. Like an environment she created for herself, like with her clothes, to remind her this is a girl's room. No boy would be caught dead in there. But there was a boy caught in there. Not dead, just sleeping, tucked away like a sweater, waiting until the season arrives and it's taken out because the time has come. He's come out now. The season has arrived. And I guess it's better that it happened now before she got married and had kids and a whole lot of her life was over. This way, at least, she has most of it ahead of her. When we were little, we used to play wedding, and she was always the bride. Maybe because even then she knew she would never be one? Or maybe she was just trying it on to see if it made her feel more like a girl, like do something enough times it becomes a habit. It must have been awful for her. I remember sometimes thinking back when we still shared that bedroom and we used to sit awake together and whisper and giggle, talking. It seemed to me like she was reciting lines she had memorized so that she'd have something appropriate to say, like not really natural, but also like if she just kept talking, pretty soon she'd fall asleep before she said what she really wanted to say. I'm a boy. I'm a boy. Sometimes I think I must have bored her talking the way we did. Well, I must have, because we weren't talking about what she wanted to talk about. You know, how do I get out of this fix that I'm in? But now I'm glad to know that I wasn't boring her holding up my end of the conversation, because we were having girl talk, she told me. And if we were having girl talk, then maybe it meant that she was wrong and she was really a girl. Maybe she was waiting for me to say something like, what's the matter? What's wrong? Of course, she would have just said, oh, nothing, I'm just, you know, and I know enough not to pry and, you know, like nag her with questions until she broke down and it came out on its own. I'm a boy. I'm a boy. And it's not like we could have just flipped a light switch on and had a good heart-to-heart and figured this thing out and come up with a way to tell mom and dad over breakfast. I guess she knew that. So for all these years, she kept it to herself. Like I said, it must have been awful and lonely for her. The most important thing, and you can't tell anyone, not that she didn't have friends, she did. Some of them are feeling betrayed now. It's not like that's what she was doing all this time, like not telling them, not confiding in them. It's just she didn't feel like she could open up to them about this. But it is this. This. They have to understand that it's not like she was drinking underage or smoking dope or something. They, all of them, say that they would have helped and would have understood. Maybe. Maybe they would have. Some of them, one or two of them. But to me, if she had said to me in the middle of the night, I'm really a boy, I don't know that I could have asked her, what's wrong? How can I help? Now that it's out in the open, I can say, and I have said, what can I do? How can I help? And she always says the same thing. Just keep on doing what you've always done. Don't treat me any differently. Yeah. But what I've always done before was buy her jewelry for her birthday, or ask her if this lipstick color is the right shade for me, or should I grow my hair long or keep it short, things like that. And I don't know now if I can ask her about advice on the new fall line of Maybelline eyeshadow colors. God, we used to talk for hours about the pros and cons of this color and that color. Not that that's all we ever talked about, because it wasn't. She gave me topics, ideas for term papers and science projects, and tips on this teacher or that teacher for this or that class I was taking. And I know certain things won't change, like her favorite TV shows and movies, foods, books, musicians, bands, because we talked about all that too. It's just that I get angry sometimes because I feel like she's being kidnapped by this other person she's becoming, and I want to yell, let her go, give her back, let her go. But go back to what? To a life where she wasn't who she wanted to be? Because looking back now on all those meals we shared together, I'm realizing that one of us wasn't really all there. Not completely. I didn't really have a sister. Just someone playing the role of sister. So what am I really losing? Maybe what's happening now is as he's becoming more and more the person she knew was really in there, is I'm gaining a real person, a complete person, a brother. It will be nice to have someone to talk to who isn't always distracted by those voices in her head, but who will hear me, and I'll hear the real her. Him. Him. I remember one time when she was about 16, we were at the mall, and we ran into one of our former neighbors we hadn't seen since before we moved to the other house. And she said to her, "Well, you filled out nicely." And she giggled and giggled until I thought she was going to be sick. I thought she was embarrassed. That wasn't it at all. I guess she saw the irony in that. Well, now I know finally why she thought that was so funny. But now we can truly say, you filled out nicely.